Yeah, I ain't tripping. I don't need you.
Well, I need you.
When I struggle with a topic, I just decide to insult Tim.
It's always gold. The audience loves it.
It's why the people tune in. It's why I've won Best Villain at the Podcast Awards this year. That's not true. Don't Google that.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, Google it, but it's not true. There's nothing to see. Hey y'all, I'm AJ Reyes.
And I'm Timothy Dailey-Valdes. And this is Can I Bother You? Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Today on the podcast, we are talking about the things that we turn to when we turn away from the things in our lives that we don't want to face. We are talking about coping mechanisms, specifically those coping mechanisms. I feel like I'm not enunciating those coping mechanisms that we turn to that sometimes maybe aren't the healthiest things to do. They're avoidance strategies when maybe we need to be facing the thing that we don't want to face. I feel like I'm repeating words a lot. I
haven't noticed, but I'm probably not listening.
Anyway, yes, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Unhealthy coping mechanisms is the topic of the day.
Timothy's not as drunk as he sounds. What are some of the things that you do when you worry?
Oh God. Wait, when I worry?
Or, well, I mean, when whatever. What are your unhealthy coping mechanisms?
I eat my feelings. That's one thing that I do.
Are they delicious?
Yes.
Good. Those are the only feelings worth having.
The feelings themselves aren't necessarily delicious, but the food, the food that I substitute for my feelings. I procrastinate all the time. I'm just like, oh, I can't even deal with this thing, but I can't do another thing that I need to do because I really should be doing that first thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to sit here and dissociate while I half pay attention to this TV show or this podcast or this song or whatever. Those are my two biggest ones, I feel like. But we can get into the weeds as the episode goes along.
I didn't realize that procrastination is a coping mechanism.
I mean, I don't think it always has to be, but for me it is.
Okay.
I don't think it's inherently a coping mechanism.
See, I half-assedly tried to look into what coping mechanisms are before we started this. I was telling Timothy that I often feel like we pick subjects or topics and then I'm like, do I know what that is? Even though it's a thing in the world that has happened in my life before, and I'm still always like, do I know what that is? And that's how I felt with this. I was like, wait, do I know what a coping mechanism is? And then I had to look into it, and I saw some examples, because I was like, what are some healthy ones? I can think of unhealthy coping mechanisms. And when it gave me, healthy examples, I was like, that's a coping mechanism? I didn't know that. So now that's how I feel about procrastination. I get what you mean, though, when you're it's not always a coping mechanism, but, that's not what I meant. I didn't think that procrastination was only a coping mechanism. I didn't know that it could be one at all. I thought it was just a thing that happens.
Just, anything you do in life to help you get through a situation or help you avoid a situation or, anything that you use to cope.
Okay.
So, what are some of your coping mechanisms, AJ?
I don't have any. I just handle everything perfectly.
That checks out.
Oh, I guess actually, currently my only coping mechanism is diving into work. I've got to have others. It's just that I need to figure out what a coping mechanism is first. But present day AJ, his biggest one is definitely just throwing himself at projects. So it's always a problem if the procrastination thing comes into play then for me, because then I'm like, oh, I need to do this thing. I wish I could get myself to do it. It doesn't look like I can. I'm just going to sit here and do Netflix instead. Because I can get through that. Of course, then, yeah, I'm only half paying attention because I'm also thinking about how much I should be doing the other thing.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Can I Bother You, you may have heard the Can I Date You series. And the reason why I have so many stories for that is because when I was younger, I used to use sex as a coping mechanism in a very unhealthy way. The reason I had so much sex when I was younger is because I wasn't happy with myself maybe kind of in general, but especially physically, I just did not like the way I looked at all, except for my hair. I did not like anything about myself. My hair and my ass. That's still to this day kind of true though, but to a much lesser extent. When I was younger though, I just felt like if a man didn't want me, I wasn't sure that I could be wanted, so I had to constantly find a man who wanted me.
Yeah.
I guess that's a coping mechanism for those feelings, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way they were using it in this episode, I feel like coping mechanism, avoidance strategy, like,
Okay,
I think we're using it all interchangeably.
Okay, now I'm starting to understand why I didn't understand. Thank you. Those words help. You have the good words. What if this is where we put in an ad for, like, a Bible camp or something? Speaking of good words.
Oh my god.
Please be sure to check out after I've just been like, I used sex to help me feel better. Please go to sleepaway camp with me.
Oh my. You're going
Bible,
to this
It's
weird
a Bible sleepaway camp.
Bible sleepaway camp?
That's where you find all the suppressed gay men who were doing what I was doing. That's where you pray on the weak.
But it's like some sort of adult Bible camp?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I don't think Timothy realizes that it's all made up and I was joking. I don't think he knows there's not a real sleepaway Bible camp for adults. Actually, there totally probably is.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not advertising that right now.
No.
If you Google that and find it, that's not because of us. That's because that's on you.
We don't endorse any of that.
We do not.
Yeah.
Live your best life, but I don't know if that's where you'll find it.
Yeah. Wait, no, I don't know. But you do you. I'm just saying we neither endorse nor whatever the opposite of endorse is condemn. That's not the word I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Talk to y'all later. The other thing that I used as a coping mechanism / whatever strategy, avoidance strategy, was retail therapy, basically. I spent all my money when I was 18 to 19. I had a decent amount of money saved up, and then I spent it all, and I've been poor ever since. So I kind of, 18 to 19-year-old AJ fucked it up. But I've got a ton of movies and books now. I've got so many DVDs and books. So I think I'm going to be okay. That's another one, reading and watching television or movies.
Escapism.
Yeah, escapism is reading real hard for me, especially as a child. That's what I did just all the time. So I was like, this world isn't very good. I'm going to go be in Harry Potter's world. Harry Potter's, not J.K. Rowling's. You want to, like, dive into yours now, or...
I'm going to need a coping strategy to get through this episode.
Great, tell us about it.
Oh, no. Yeah, I definitely have used reading that way sometimes too. Anytime, the world was too much.
Mm-hmm.
That one I think is more healthy than some others for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, it's edifying. Reading makes you a better, more empathetic, more knowledgeable person. So that's not a bad one.
I think only to an extent. I think that any coping mechanism could become a bad one.
That is true. If it becomes like a crutch.
Yeah. It's sort of like using Netflix to procrastinate. There's nothing wrong if you're having an awful day, you had a bad day at work, customers were like yelling at you and being real mean. If you need to let go of those feelings, throw yourself at a Netflix show and be drawn into those feelings, that's totally chill. But if you're only ever watching Netflix because you don't want to face anything else, that's a problem. Been there before too.
Yeah.
And, because, diving into work, that's what I love to do now. It's what makes me feel better. I just something that I saw, there was some article that said something about, emotion-focused coping skills or, problem-focused coping skills, and one of the problem-focused ones was making a list, and I'm like, hey, that's me! I love to make lists, because it makes me feel like I'm in control. Mm-hmm. Even if I get totally off schedule or whatever, at least I can make this list and check things off of it. Because sure, I'm 4 hours and 2 days behind, but I've got my list and I can see the work getting done. But yeah, so diving into work, for me right now, I don't think I'm using it in a negative way. I'm not running from any feelings or anything. I don't think I have any feelings right now. As someone who sold his heart, it's really hard to always understand when you're having a feeling,
Am I even pronouncing that word correctly?
A feeling. It's kind of a funny sound. I don't know.
Homer Simpson once said that alcohol is the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Okay.
That was my very clumsy segue into the fact that I have often in my life used alcohol as a way to get through life. That's not, no, that makes it sound like I had a bigger role in my life than it did. But like, especially in grad school, my social anxiety was through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would often, partly by virtue of the town that I went to grad school in, we would often end up at bars and I would have to socialize with all these new people. And I wanted them to think I was cool and funny and hip. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you know, I get freer and more fun when I drink. So that became an issue because I felt like I needed to drink in order to like mellow out enough to have social interactions with people. Not literally every social interaction. I didn't have to be drinking all the time, but I definitely did it too much, probably.
It's whatever. Was it unhealthy? Sure. Were you alone? Definitely not.
That's true. But
You were all fucked up together. In multiple ways. Community is important, Timothy. I can't relate to that. I don't drink because I haven't read the latest science on it, but as far as I know, alcoholism is still hereditary, so that's why I don't drink or anything. I can say, though, that there have been times I've never had alcohol in my life. I think I, like, tasted a straw full once when I worked at a bar because they were like, you need to know what it tastes like.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They were like, you need to know what it tastes like, and I did it once. And then they were like, you should do that with all the drinks. And I was like, no, fuck you. And I did it the one time, and I was
What
like, no.
if you were like allergic to alcohol or something?
Right? So that was like the only time I did it.
That sounds legally questionable to me.
I feel like it probably is, but most restaurants are legally questionable. So anyway, I've never had alcohol, but I have on multiple occasions had passing thoughts where I'm like, oh, I could use a drink right now. And every time I'm like, what? You've never had a drink before in your life. Where did that come from? So I'm like, that's all the proof I need that it's probably bad for me. If I've never even done it and I'm still like, man, I really need to drink. Cookies, though. Cookies. I eat way too many cookies, and it's because they make me feel better.
I could really go for a cocoa right now. That was a callback to another episode where we were talking about cookies, and I said that just like offhandedly, and then I was like really regretting the fact that I said cocoa for some reason.
So you said it again?
Yeah. But anyway, I could really go for some cookies right now.
I could always go for a cookie. So like,
how late does Tiff's Treats deliver?
I think 10.
I shouldn't anyway. Don't judge me. That's another one of my unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Oh, spending money?
Well, no, not specifically spending money, but ordering Tiff's Treats.
Oh, got you. Yeah. Well, I mean, is it unhealthy?
Yeah, because the cookies aren't good for you.
Well, yeah, but...
And then, yeah, I don't need to be spending all that money on... I almost said fake cookies. That's not what I mean.
Okay, well, because I'm like, I do think that there are times when you can not unhealthily be like, I've had a bad day. I've earned some cookies.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I definitely do sometimes use eating as an unhealthy coping mechanism. Like if I'm sad or if I'm upset or if I'm bored or anything like that, often I will turn to food, and it's not great because I won't be eating because I'm hungry or I need nourishment or, you know, whatever. I'll just be eating because it makes me feel better. Temporarily. So that's something I want to try to combat in myself. It's also hard to talk about because I'm pretty hungry right now.
Yeah, I'm very hungry right now. I've always been interested in hearing when people say that they eat when they're bored because I've never experienced that. So I'm just kind of like, oh, interesting. But also, I barely eat as it is, and I'm not big on snacking, so I like really don't get it. I don't fault people for feeling that way. It's just one of those things that I'm like, man, I wish I understood what that was like because I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of our coping mechanisms are ways of triggering chemical responses in our brains. You know, like, oh, this gives me dopamine or serotonin or like, you know, whatever it is in the given situation.
Yeah. We're all druggies. Yeah.
And so I think it's really easy to fall into those patterns without even necessarily realizing it. And, you know, it's just part of being a human, and it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But it's nice to be aware of what's happening in your brain.
Mm-hmm. True.
But, you know, what do I'm not a neurologist or a psychologist or anything.
One of the things I took up during the pandemic, I started walking every day in like May of last year, I think. So that was early on in the pandemic, I guess. I think in the beginning, I was not going every day, but it was only a few weeks before I was finally going every day, Monday through Friday. And up until recently, because of various issues, I had been doing that. And I hadn't thought of that as a coping mechanism, but that's what it was. To try to relieve some of my stress and anxiety.
But a very healthy one.
Yeah, it's a healthy one.
Yeah.
Well, to an extent. I have a messed up leg, so it hasn't been great on my leg. But it also hasn't like been awful. So meditation is another one that was on the list of like positive coping mechanisms or whatever. Yeah. I love doing guided meditations when I get like especially anxiety. Anxiety. It's what I said. I said what I said. I think I know myself better than you do.
That is true.
Anxiety.
But I think I know English better than you do, so...
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I think that college is an illusion.
I think I would still know English better than you if it weren't for college, but that's just me.
Well, you heard it here. You heard it here. You heard it here. Timothy doesn't respect me. You heard it here.
I was just kidding. I love and respect and honor you to the utmost. I thought AJ was going to say something, but he just looked.
Now that
he was done with my.
Now that we all know that I don't know English, I should probably just sit here quietly.
Oh, I was kidding. You're very good with the words.
No, I'm not done manipulating you.
Are you ever?
No. No. Oh, that's a coping mechanism. I just fuck with Timothy sometimes. It makes me feel better.
Oh, it makes me feel something. So,
just to be clear, that's not true. I don't fuck with him just because it makes me feel better. I do it for you people. I do it to make you feel better. This is all for you. And see, that's how you start manipulating others.
I was going to say, now you're manipulating them.
Yeah.
Wow. This is a complex web of stuff.
I've never claimed to not be manipulative.
I know.
If anything, I have actively claimed to be manipulative.
It's true.
I'll lie to get what I want.
I remember in this moment, that time that we were in the park and you saw that tree and you were like,
oh,
I love that tree. How can I use it?
I said, how can I exploit that tree's beauty or something like that? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I thought you knew English, but I like the word exploit. Specifically when talking about how I can put something in something for myself. I'm done. I don't have anything else to say about it.
AJ has very expressive eyes, y'all. If you don't know, now you sort of know. But
check me out on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go. I think when I was younger, to a certain extent, I used religion as a coping mechanism.
Huh.
That's probably putting it too strongly. But even now, I still consider myself a spiritual person. So I do turn to religion when I feel like it. That sounds bad. But anyway, I was never exactly like, Jesus, take the wheel. But I did sometimes use it as, I know we've already said this word probably too much, but I did sort of use it as a crutch sometimes. Like, oh, God will provide. Or like, God has a plan. Everything is part of the plan, even if we don't understand it. God works in mysterious ways. And I think sometimes, especially when talking to other people, when I was at a certain age, I would give them like nothing platitudes. Like I wouldn't usually bring God into it necessarily, but I'd be like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And AJ just gave me the big eye roll. I deserved it. But yeah, I think I probably depended on religion to an unhealthy degree at times.
That's one of my issues with religion. People like post things on Facebook and just like, it's like they're throwing it all on God. And I'm like, that's not fair. Even if I don't necessarily believe that there's anyone up there. It's rude of you to just be like, oh, that person up there will figure it out. I just gotta be here and breathe, and it'll all be fine. And I'm like, that's
Let
not...
go and let God.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not fair. Have your religion or whatever, but you have to acknowledge that you have some control here. Maybe
Yeah.
not all the control. There are definitely other factors, but you can't just decide that, like, oh, God will handle it.
Yeah. God helps those who help themselves.
Sure.
It's like that old joke about a religious person in a hurricane, I think, or in a flood. The water's slowly getting higher. They're in their house and they say, oh, you know what? I'm not worried. God has my back. Like, everything is fine. And then the water keeps getting higher and it's flooded the first floor of their house. So they have to go to the second story. And they open the window, they look out at the increasing rain and they say, it's okay. You know, God's going to come for me. A boat comes by and offers to take them to safety. And they say, no, I trust in my Lord and I'm going to wait out the storm here. He will provide. And then the person's like, okay, whatever. So they go up in their boat. And then the person's on the roof and a helicopter comes by and offers to save them. And they say, no. My Lord and my Savior, Jesus Christ, has got my back. And they're like, okay, I don't know what else to do. And then so the person gets swept away by the flood and they die. And then they're in heaven. I left something out of this joke. But anyway, they're talking to St. Peter and they say, I don't understand. I thought God would provide for me. And St. Peter's like, well, he provided a boat. He provided a helicopter. Like, you know,
Yeah.
You have to work with what is here on the earth too.
Yeah.
Even if there is a higher power, you know.
I had a thought and I lost it.
Oh, I'm sorry, AJ.
That's okay.
I probably buried it in all my rambling.
A little bit. No, it's good. Oh, I realized. Friends. I use my friends to distract me. I used to do it a lot more when I was younger too. I'm just generally healthier now. Not great, but I'm healthier. Certainly much healthier than I was in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. In my early 20s, I was constantly hanging out with you and Emma, and it's only because I needed distraction.
Well, I'm glad we were able to provide that for you.
Me too. Thanks so much. If y'all had been at all entertaining or fun, that would have helped, but that's okay. I won't fault
Any
y'all
port
for
in a
that.
storm.
But yeah, no, I feel like I call y'all like every day to hang out, and it's because I didn't want to be alone or dealing with my own shit. So I'm like, let me just talk to people and it'll be fine. And I still feel that way sometimes, but I mean, not as much, because I'm just in a better place now, more or less. But yeah, using my friends to distract me was one of my favorites. Yeah. I remember one time I called you to hang out, and maybe you were at dinner with your parents or something, and I think maybe at first you said you couldn't, and then your parents were like, go ahead, or something. I think that, like, we hung up, and then later you called me, and you were like, hey, actually, I can. And then when we were hanging out, you said that your mom said it sounded like I needed someone, or something like that.
I believe you. I do not remember this at all.
I don't blame you for not remembering it, because it's like, it's nothing to you, but it was something to me at the time, you know? So I remember that. We mentioned it in, I think, the last episode, but Timothy's mom is a psychologist, so I think she just picked up on it. I do remember also being curious, like, what did Timothy tell them I said? Because I was like, what did I say? Because I didn't talk to them, you know? So she's like, if she was able to decipher that maybe I needed to be with someone, I'm like, what did I say to Tim? And what did that make him say to them? And I'm going to try really hard to remember right now.
I wish I could, because I'm a little embarrassed / disappointed in myself that I didn't pick up on it enough to know that you needed me.
Timothy, you're a wonderful person. You're just not very perceptive. You got English at least. Hope that keeps you warm at night. We can't all always see everything, Timothy.
But yeah, I wish I could remember.
And like I said, I mean, I called y'all to hang out so often that I couldn't even try it. I couldn't even attempt to begin. I couldn't even begin to attempt, there we go, to narrow it down. It was essentially just another night. We are now taking calls, so please call in and let us know what your coping mechanisms are. We will sit here and wait. It's not a live show, that's why it's funny.
Peeking behind the curtain.
Oh, caller on line number 1. Caller, thank you for being a caller and calling.
Oh God,
Please.
are you gonna make me do improv now?
Tell us, what's your problem? Timothy, that's you. Timothy, you're the caller.
Hello, my name is Mr.
Ed? It was a really good Mr. Ed impression.
No, I was not intentionally trying to be Mr. Ed.
It was actually kind of your Eeyore voice.
They're all the same.
Yeah, it's also your Obama voice.
No, it's not.
It's pretty damn close, Timothy.
No, let me be clear.
That's basically, like, it's your Obama voice, except your Obama voice, you're a little tighter.
But anyway.
Yeah, there's no caller here. There's no caller.
There's no caller. Oh dear. I've never put it in the show notes, and it's an oversight on my part, but I feel the need to explain because you've referenced it multiple times on the show. There's no blank here. There's no blank. It's a reference to a series of videos that we did back in the day called the Night of 13 Videos. And the original line was, "There's no dog here. There's no dog." Anyway.
I don't know why we thought that was so funny.
It is funny.
It's the delivery. You're going to have to watch the video to get it.
Yeah, I'm clearly not doing it justice.
Because the words aren't inherently funny.
In the context of the film, we were afraid of this dog, but then there was no dog. So it was like, there's no dog here. There's no dog. Anyway, yes, it was very funny to us. We're quite hilarious.
Yeah. See, we don't even have to say anything to be funny.
Don't even have to try.
Think of what we could do if we did try.
Tim.
Who thought of coping mechanisms? Was this you? Great. You carry it.
I'm trying.
Oh, go ahead. I'll be quiet.
No, I mean, I feel like I've said a lot. But
you have, but that's not carrying it. Say more.
It's okay. We're getting through it together with the audience, like metaphysically through time and also with each other. You can depend on me and I can depend on you. And that's the only thing that's really, really true. I'm trying to do like a little poem here. A little poem.
Then you go to school for it?
Proof. I go to school for improv poetry.
Okay, fair. Fair.
I'm winging it.
So, coping mechanisms. No, let me be clear.
Your impression of my Obama impression is a better Obama impression than my Obama impression. I don't know why, but the question that entered my head was, how do you cope with senility? But it wasn't like directed at you. Those were just like the words that entered my brain. I don't know why. I must have heard that phrase somewhere, coping with senility or something.
It's a book or something.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Cope is sort of a funny word. I don't really know the origin of it, but I think when I was younger, when people would say cope, like you're coping with something, I used to think they were saying hope. Like, it's important to think about how you hope with things. Like what? But now I know the difference. And that's made a huge difference in my life, in my world. AJ is so done with my shit right now.
I appreciate that you're trying to carry the show. You're trying to like keep us going. I really appreciate it. Thank you for trying.
It's just really boring, is what you're saying.
Well, it's not that it's boring, it's that it's nothing. You and I both know you're just babbling, and I appreciate that you are willing to do that for me. That's what makes you such a good friend. Going back to the how I use sex as a coping mechanism thing, when we first decided to do an episode about this sort of thing, that was where my brain went immediately because it was such a large part of my life. Also, I became sexually active very young because of it. And, many other factors, I'm sure. Man, it's so weird that there's so many factors that make us who we are.
It's true.
That's so weird. the previous episode, last week's episode, was about pride, and I considered touching on this, and then I didn't. But there was a few years, I think like a 3-ish year period, kind of, where I sort of considered myself asexual, because I stopped wanting sex. Not even just I stopped seeking it out and having it, I just didn't even want it anymore. I didn't even really look at men anymore. I just was not feeling very sexual at all. And that is sort of, I think, when I started to work through my issues that even threw me into such a sexually active life anyway. I'm trying to remember sort of when I overcame all of that. Both my need to feel needed in that way and also actively following that impulse. I can't remember when I stopped. I'm kind of thinking it was like 21 to 24 is when I was like not having sex. Being abstinent. No, that doesn't work. I don't think of it that way. I was sitting here trying to think about it, but it's too hard. It was too hard. It was a long time ago, y'all.
It's especially trippy since you're only 22 now.
I was going to say it was around the first time I turned 22, and like at this point, all the 22s bleed together, and I can't remember which one was which. But anyway, just a warning. Maybe this will get heavy. So if you don't want to feel negative, go away. I can't pinpoint when I started feeling so negative about myself physically. I mean, in elementary school, in the bullying episode, we talk about how kids said I had an apple-shaped head or something, and I was like, I don't know what that means, and apples are delicious.
All heads are apple-shaped. Roughly.
Right. But I also got called a lot of other things, particularly about my physical appearance and my face. And so obviously all of that had something to do with it. But now I don't feel particularly negative about my physical appearance. I think actually being an actor is what helped me a lot with it. I've learned a lot about myself as an actor, and one of the many things that you have to learn as an actor is the types you can play, and like the roles you'll be cast in. And so I had to accept myself physically, because otherwise I'd just be wasting my time. And be unhappy all the time. Wow, that's awful. I guess I did do that for a while. That's another episode. You have not been nearly sexually as active as I have. Did you ever have any self-image issues, and how did you deal with them? Yeah, so like,
I have my whole life.
How did you cope with yours? Because obviously we did it in very different ways.
I think, honestly, if anything, my body image issues keep me from having more interactions like that.
Yeah, see, I've heard that before. That's definitely not uncommon either.
But I definitely can relate to the, like, wanting to feel wanted. Like, I definitely have that impulse, wanting to be wanted.
For sure.
I think I want to be wanted romantically more than I want to be wanted sexually.
Okay.
But they're both there.
And that checks out, though, because I was not interested in being wanted romantically. Well, it's kind of like I was willing to accept that, but because I never really wanted that, on the rare occasion. Also, it was a weird thing because I was constantly bouncing back and forth between I'm not happy with myself, I'm not happy with the way I look, I'm not happy with my life, I need someone to want me. And then when a guy did want me, I'm like, you only want me physically? That's all you want? And then when a guy wanted to date me, I'd be like, I don't really like you. Like, you want me? There's something wrong with you if you want me. So I think we should probably end this now. I was like really messed up. I got so much good art out of that shit, though.
True.
You don't need to suffer to have good art, blah, blah, blah.
That's true, too.
Blah, 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 blah. I interrupted you, though. What were you saying about how you coped with your image issues?
I don't know that I've really addressed them appropriately in my life.
I mean, I'm not asking how you work through it and how you feel better about yourself now. What are your coping mechanisms for it?
I don't have a good answer for you because, like, it's something I struggle with, but I don't really have a way of dealing with it.
So it's just like avoidance.
I guess so, but I think about it all the time. I just don't do anything about it.
Got you.
I know that's a deeply unsatisfying answer.
Well, I mean, I feel like you answered the question and that the answer is avoidance. You just don't do anything about it. You just ignore the problem. You know it's there and maybe you recognize it pretty frequently, but if you're not doing anything about it, you're just kind of avoiding it.
I guess I'm avoiding doing anything about it, yeah. I'm not avoiding thinking about it.
Oh, yeah. I personally don't think it's all that easy to avoid a thought. Because those bitches will just show up whenever you don't want them. All the time. That's why I know I'm such a terrible person. Because I have these thoughts, and I'm like, if that's my natural thought, that's how I know I'm pure evil. But I never say it out loud.
Well, I think it's important to recognize the difference between real, genuine thoughts that you're having that are like true to you, and then intrusive thoughts, which are like a totally different thing that you have like no control over and
Oh,
don't. I mean, they come from you in the sense that they come from your brain, but they're not really representative of like you. I struggle with intrusive thoughts sometimes.
yeah. I remember having thoughts like that when I was a kid and being like, oh my god, what's wrong with me? Going back to my thoughts of myself when I was younger, that's how I ended up spending all my money when I was like 18 or 19 because I was so unhappy. And so I guess it was half to feel better and feel like I had a life.
Mhm.
I'd go out shopping and I'm like, look, I'm going out shopping. That's what people do.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it. And then I'd come home with books and movies, and I'm like, great, now I have something to keep avoiding my problems with. I'll just dive into this thing that I spent all my money on. I mean, and it obviously didn't like actually help. That didn't actually help me work through my problems. But it did work as an awful coping mechanism, though. It did serve that purpose.
Yeah.
So, if you're in a really unhealthy place and you need a really unhealthy coping mechanism, would recommend. It does work. It also ruins you financially, but it works as a coping mechanism. So if you're just focusing on that aspect, chef's kiss.
Oh man, yeah, I've definitely struggled with that before too. You're not alone.
Did you talk about that at all yet?
Not really, but I don't think I have anything really to contribute that you haven't already. It was never my biggest avoidance strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but it has been one at various points in my life.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever spent money on other people as part of it, you think? Or are you selfish? Because also, we should say that Timothy has paid for most of my meals this year because he won't stop. I've asked him repeatedly, or told him repeatedly. To be fair, I haven't asked you to stop, really. But I have told you on multiple occasions, you can stop that. Or you can, like, Venmo me my half. Or, well, I mean, request on Venmo my half, or whatever.
It does make me feel good to be able to help people out in that way.
But I mean, like, is that, like, a coping mechanism?
Not
Is it
really.
helping you feel good because of something, or does it just make you feel good?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I guess it's because I often feel like I'm a really bad friend. And so it's a very simple way to like, I don't want to say show that you care because that sounds bad, like I'm buying your love or something.
Well, I mean, that's one of the love languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess in those ways, yeah, kind of.
Mm. Aha! I felt like it needed to be like a gotcha moment, you know?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I like to help people, and I often feel like there's not a lot I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I can do.
Mm.
So I don't know.
As someone who has always struggled, both with money but also in general, I've had a hard life. Where was I going with that? I just wanted to brag. No. It was something about you paying for things. Timothy pays for a lot of stuff for like the last decade, really. I owe Timothy a lot of money.
That's not true.
I was about to say, before he rudely interrupted, that he'll never let me pay it back. And honestly, I could never pay it back at this point because it's so much money. I'm very grateful. Bullshit, 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 blah, 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 blah. But like, you can stop. You don't have to do that. You're not a bad friend, both in general or if you stop spending your money on me. But it is nice to have a sugar daddy who I owe nothing to.
A sugar friendy. Can we go with that?
A sugar friendy. You're so much older than me, though.
That's what I was going to say. Is mostly I don't feel comfortable because I'm not old enough to be your daddy.
I was considering getting a sugar daddy at the end of 2019 because I was in a really bad financial place again. I mean, honestly, I've been in a bad financial place for most of my adult life, but it was getting a little worse at that point, and so I was looking into sugar daddies, and I was like, okay, God, it's like a real job. I mean, every situation is different. Every sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship has different,
Dynamics?
Thank you, dynamics. There, I was like, not rules, but something like it, dynamics. But for the most part, it seemed like, in all my research, I found that the point was that the sugar, also not just sugar daddy, they're sugar mamas too, but I was looking for daddy. They will, give you a weekly or monthly allowance, or they'll pay your bills, or they'll buy you expensive things or whatever. And typically in exchange, the main thing is just they want your company.
Mhm.
And it's not always sexual or even physical in any way, shape, or form. Sometimes they just want someone to like spend an evening with or go out on a date with or something.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, it's not that I mind doing that. It's just that I already have so little time. And so that's why I ended up deciding not to do it. I kept it on the back burner just in case.
Mhm.
It was good to know that at least I was now more educated on it and I could try to do it in a way that was healthy for my life.
Mhm.
But ultimately, I was like, ooh, that's way too time consuming. So it is nice that you don't expect any of my time and you buy me food anyway. I do appreciate that. If you don't have a Timothy, you should go get you one. They don't make great friends, but they make great wallets. That's your fault for awing. You did this to you.
Well, I wouldn't have to awe if you didn't say something sweet.
Well, I wouldn't have to say something sweet if you weren't such a nice person. Earlier, I was talking about going back to the topic at hand. Earlier, I was talking about meditation, also stretching. I didn't mention that. Meditation, stretching, and walking were all very useful to me over the past year. Mostly stretching and walking. I actually was doing the meditation thing more before the pandemic, I think. Oh, yeah, especially because in February, I was in a car accident, February of 2020. I've told that story at some point in the run of the series of Can I Bother You? But I don't think I mentioned that because of that car accident and just all the other things I was dealing with in my life at that point, I was just feeling the stress and anxiety real hard. And so I had started meditating then. And I liked to do the guided meditations while I stretched. And it helped a lot. It really helped. I'm now doing a lovely arm dance for you all that you cannot see. To like imply stretching and, being zen or something. That's what you do in meditation, right? You have to zen. You have to get to zen. Doing the zen.
When I was a theater major, we did yoga every week. And that helped me feel a lot more centered and in touch with my body. I wish I still did yoga or would get back into it, but who knows?
I saw a call earlier today or yesterday, a casting call that was looking for people to fill multiple roles, and one of them was in a yoga class. And I was like, I could be in a yoga class. And then I opened it up, and it was like, must have real yoga experience. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. I faked it plenty.
You could do sun salutations.
Which one is that? I remember the Shavasana. Is that how it's pronounced? The one where you play dead?
But sun salutations, we did them in high school theater. They're like, you start from, we're going to cut this out obviously, but you start from here and then you kind of go, and then I don't remember where it goes from there. You end up on the floor.
Okay, it's like a whole thing.
It's like a whole thing.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a pose or... But it's like a series of poses?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
If you saw someone doing it, you'd be like, oh!
I'm sure I would. I have a YouTube video where the premise is that it's an angry yoga instructor, basically. He's going through a breakup. It's one of my favorite ones, honestly.
It's a really good one.
Thank you. I was pretty happy with it. But I had to learn some yoga terms when I did it. So Shavasana was the only one. And I think I'm pronouncing it right. But I remember back when I filmed it, I had trouble pronouncing it. I had to replay different clips of people saying it to get it right. Because I kept putting the inflection on the wrong part or something, I think. But it's usually the last yoga pose that people do in a class. And you're just laying flat on your back, basically. And so I'm like, I got that one. I've been on my back plenty. Off the top of your head, do you know what your... positive coping skills are?
I don't think I have any. No, cool. I'm sure I do. Cool. I do meditate sometimes. I think that that's beneficial. Oh
wait, sorry to interrupt you. I asked you a question and now I'm shutting you up. But that made me remember I also have a guided meditation video, a parody video. And the reason I made that video is because while guided meditations have helped me, when I was first starting them, there was this little voice in the back of my head that was like, can we do this faster? Can you hurry up and meditate, please? Because we have a to-do list to get back to. And just a funny thought I had. Anyway, go on. Could you please answer the damn question, Timothy?
Shut up and answer me. But yeah, so that and controlled breathing. I guess a lot of this is going back to our I think the title of the episode was Can I Deal With You? Maybe that's not right.
That sounds right.
But we did an episode that was about how do you deal with stress, maybe. I don't remember. Anyway, but I talked a little bit about like centering and
Can I handle my life with you?
there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, controlled breathing. Oh my god, I love that. Although, because that's also usually in a guided meditation, if I'm falling asleep to a guided meditation and they're like, inhale to the count of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and so then I inhale, and they're like, and hold, or whatever, and they're like, release to the count of 6, or some bullshit, you know? And so then I fall into the rhythm with them,
Mm-hmm.
and then as I'm drifting to sleep, I'll like wake myself up because I'm like, oh, I'm holding my breath. Oh, I'm suffocating myself now. My bad.
Oh no.
My bad. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. That's me talking to me in bed. Sorry, y'all.
This sounds like I'm just copying you, but I promise I'm not. Don't think about it too hard. But sometimes, not even as a distraction, but sometimes I'll just talk to you or talk to my parents or talk to another friend.
Mm-hmm.
It can go one of two ways. It can either be talking about what I'm trying to process or deal with or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or it can be something else, but just like the act of talking.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an introvert, I need to stress that. Don't just randomly call me.
Please do not speak to me ever.
Do not come for me. I will come for you.
You can leave a message on my voicemail.
Yes.
I will text you
get back
back.
to you within 6 to 8 weeks.
If you are lucky.
I'm a bad friend, but I love you. I love you all. But yeah, that's often very helpful. Even though like all of my friends listening right now are like, well, why don't you ever talk to him? Like, why don't you ever reach out, Tim? And I don't have a good answer for you. It's just that my brain is not wired to be able to like randomly reach out to people because I'm like, what if they don't want to hear from me? What if I'm annoying them? Oh, they're probably pretty busy. You know, I'll just be clingy and needy. I won't have anything to say.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Yeah. Everyone is either that person or they're the other person who is like, I should call them. I don't want to bother them. They haven't called me. The phone works both ways, you know. I think about you all the time, and you don't seem to think about me at all because you never call. And then you just got a bunch of people who are being ridiculous, which is all humanity is. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I love the little glimpses of AJ's philosophical worldview that you get from this show. It's a good intro to like who AJ is as a person.
I'm really happy to let people know the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. About humanity.
Now
Now you
I
know.
thought you meant the truth about like the way you see the world.
No, the truth. Just the truth.
The objective truth.
Just the flat, yeah. Just the flat earth truth.
Oh no. We do not support flat eartherism on this podcast.
I don't know. I have a lot of friends who have moved and I've never seen them again. I don't know.
What?
They dropped off the face of the earth, Timothy.
Oh, I see.
Because the earth is flat.
Oh dear.
Just the truth. But anyway, yeah. If you have struggled with reaching out to your friends, just know that it's okay.
It is okay.
It is okay.
I have to tell myself that.
Well, I mean, it just is okay. We all have things to do and deal with.
Yeah.
So, it's okay. And if they really cared, they would reach out to you. But yes, I do think that talking to people is one of the healthier ones. As long as you don't expect people to be at your constant beck and call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is something I don't think I've ever done, but I have always struggled with. I don't struggle with it as much now, but like when I was constantly calling you and Emma to hang out with me, to like essentially distract me, even though I never told y'all that's what it was, I had to remind myself, like, if they are not available, that is because they are busy living their lives, and that is good for them, and you can see them some other time, and tonight you'll just read a book, or spend some money, or have sex, and it'll be fine. I hope that we gave y'all some positive things. I feel like I got a little negative for a second, but that's only because I am pure darkness.
Hey, we're just being real. We're telling it like it is.
Yeah, like I said, the truth.
We're giving people radical, loving honesty.
I don't know about the loving part, but
You can be the radical, I can be the loving.
okay, fine,
Right?
fine.
Something like that.
I don't really like the idea of love being near me at all, but fine.
Well.
Fine.
If you like the idea of our love being near you or our radicality being near you, You can find us on all the socials at Can I Bother You? We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're also on Ko-fi. If you'd like to help support us monetarily, that would mean a great deal to us.
And I owe Timothy so much money, so please help me.
If you are in need of any sort of advice, maybe to help you cope with your life, or, whatever, you can ask us any of your questions in need of advice by emailing botherus@canibotheryou.com or by sliding into our social media DMs. If you want to get social with me, you can find me on Instagram at Tomatio88 and on Facebook and Twitter at TCJDV. AJ, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AJReyesF13. You can also find me on YouTube. Oh, I mentioned 2 of my videos tonight, didn't I? You can go find me on YouTube. Hang out with me there, please. Without Timothy watching us like a weirdo.
I mean, I'm always watching your videos. He's very funny, y'all.
That's so creepy.
Not like on a constant loop or anything. I mean, it's not like that. No.
Alright, so anyway, if y'all wanna... If you would like to rate, review, and subscribe, those would all be very appreciated. On the Apple Podcast, you can rate us 5 stars. And I'm doing a dance and...
It's great. It's not the Charleston, but it's vaguely Charleston-esque. I'm sure it has a name.
I think it would be the Charleston if I was standing, but I'm sitting.
Oh yeah, if you were doing the leg
if my legs were doing the thing,
yeah.
But it's definitely jazz hand heavy. So if you are about that, you let me know in a review how much you care about jazz hands and give us those 5 stars to support the jazz hands. They are trying to get into college and they pay with stars. Follow and subscribe from your podcatcher of choice so you can keep up with the jazz hands education. So, thank you for your time, and please cope well.
Amen.